Hello, and welcome to the Alumni Support Business Roundtable. I'm so excited to welcome you. My name is Jodi Scholes, and I am the instructor for the MBLEX review course. After our members pass their MBLEX, we have more for you. It's called Alumni Support. And 4 times a year, we bring together some of our massage profession's leading lights. Today, they're leading ladies. And we bring them together to shine some light, to give you some shining examples of what your career could look like. So our alumni support, by definition, are newly licensed therapists. They may not be new to the profession, but they're newly licensed therapists. And so today's session is about continuing education. Yeah. How do you pick your track? How do you know what you want to study? What continuing education is going to really light you up? And we're going to hear from 4 people today. Let me review our agenda for you. We're going to hear from 4 people on a panel today about their career path. 2 are continuing education providers and licensed massage therapists and then body workers. And 2 are practitioners who graduated from this program are going to share their adventure story with you. So that is in the very first part of our business roundtable. From there, we're going to move into a topic on how do you afford continuing ed. And Miss Tara is going to talk to us about budgeting for your continuing education. Yeah. And then there's an OG in the house. There is Ruth Werner here, our pathology queen. You may not have realized it there. She is. Hey, Ruth. Ruth is going to be speaking with us later on, and we're going to do an interview of Ruth on this path of continuing education as it relates to pathology, as it relates to building your career, and how taking intentional continuing education can help you specialize in treating certain pathologies. So these are the leading ladies we have for you today. And we are going to jump right in with just a little bit of housekeeping because today is one continuing education credit. So if you are a licensed massage therapist, you are earning a continuing education hour. However, there's some rules around that. Go ahead and type your name in the chat with your email because that is you signing in to class. When you put your name in the chat, and give us your email. At the end of our session today, I'm going to invite you to go ahead and type your name in the chat again with your email. This is going to verify for me that you have been here for the entire session. It also verifies for the NCB TMB that you have been here for the whole session. So if you go ahead and do that now, if you'd like a continuing education credit for this class, go ahead and type your name and full name, first and last, as it appears on your license, and your email address. So, very good. And I'll remember to do that when we're done. All right. Multi-speaker. All right, let's see how this works. Okay. So let's go ahead and kick off if you have questions, one other thing, and housekeeping before we start our panel discussion. And that is, if you have questions that are for our speakers or pathology questions for Ruth Werner later, please type them in the chat. We're not going to be opening microphones today, so we would prefer and encourage you to put those questions in the chat, and then Tara will make me aware of those questions in the chat, and we will address them in between our sessions or as they come up with Ruth Werner. Also wanted to make mention that Ruth has a podcast we'll be talking about again later, and her podcast is called I Have a Client Who. And so feel free to frame your questions on pathology in that type of a framework. I have a client who, zoop, You can figure that out. And what's the patient condition? What are you managing? And that'll be helpful for later on. All right. So let me welcome our panel members. And we're going to do a multi-speaker view. There we go. They're my panel members. And we are going to start by welcoming so we're going to start by welcoming Joy Carey. Hello, Joy. You can wave. Joy holds a master's degree in rehabilitation science. And while Joy was in college, she also served as the assistant volleyball coach, which I thought was fascinating because, athletics in college, it's such a challenge. It really speaks to her determination. In 2015, Joy began her formal study of Hellerwerk structural integration. So if those of you who are still studying for the MBLEX, Hellerwerk structural integration is what Joy was studying. And Joy studied with a phenomenal teacher named Sharon Wheeler. Sharon studied directly with Ida Rolf. You've heard of Rolfing? Well, Sharon studied directly with Ida, and Joy studied directly with Sharon. So just saying. And in 2022, Joy also began assisting in Sharon's workshops, her international workshops. Joy actively studies with various teachers structural integration and osteopathy. Have you heard of osteopaths? Yeah. All right. Joy teaches her own classes, and she'll be teaching coming up real soon. We'll talk a little bit about that with Todd Garcia. And Todd is a part of Anatomy Trains, which is founder is Tom Myers, the fascia king. And the last time Joy and Todd taught together, they had about 400 people in class. Yeah. So she's passionate about her scar work. And one last thing I want to mention about Joy is that she spends some time in the Ukraine. And she and 7 other people, her team of 8, train physiotherapists, body workers on rehabbing patients who have suffered injuries in war, specifically amputees. And so, very happy to have you here today. Thanks, Joy. You guys can turn on your microphones if you want. All right. Next, I'm going to be introducing to you the one, the only Lynn Pilkington. And Lynn, oh my goodness. I am just delighted to introduce to you Lynn. Lynn is a graduate of this MBLEX review course. She graduated and passed her MBLEX 8 years ago. Over that time, she has done massage at retreats. She has built her own private practice. And Lynn took continuing education and specializes in manual lymph drainage for lymphedema, post-operative lymphedema, has a thriving practice in Texas, in the state of Texas. So welcome, Lynn. Yay. Wave at us. Hi. All right. And Miss Connie. Oh, that's right. Sorry. Thank you, Tara. If you could fix that for them. And Ms. Connie. Connie is also a graduate of this MBLEX review course. Connie is a registered nurse. She spent time in the ICU and other sections, ER, I believe she said. Thank you. But being a registered nurse in, as you can imagine, the emergency room, very chaotic, really wanted to contribute more to healing than to the chaos of an ICU. Became a licensed massage therapist after taking this program. She has her own private practice. She has just hired her first W-2 employee. And yes, so there's somebody while she's with us at this business roundtable, she is also, her people are working. And so the other thing, Connie is also planning her first multi-day retreat. So welcome, Connie.
Thank you for having me.
Yay. Yay. Microphones are on. All right. And Our final panel member, can you believe this panel? I know. Wow. And our final panel member is Ms. Ericka Clinton. Ms. Ericka has been a massage therapist since 1998 when she was 5. Yeah. And she graduated from the Swedish Institute, where she was such a talented therapist. They recruited her to come and to teach at the Swedish Institute in New York City. And she has been both a teacher and an administrator there. However, now she is the educational coordinator for a nonprofit called Heal Well. Heal Well is known for its oncology massage, it's palliative care teaching, it's soon to be MLD teaching, but also it's hospital-based programs. So hospital-based massage therapy for oncology and palliative care, forget this, adults and pediatric care. Crazy talk. Isn't that cool? HealWell has a 9-month program that we're going to ask Ericka about a little bit later called Empath. How many of you guys think, those of you who are listening, how many think of yourselves as empaths? hmm The empath program might be for you. Okay, so let's get started. Uh, so, Ericka, let's get started with, could you talk to us about your Uh, could you get started by talking to us about, let's say, your palliative care program? Can you frame that in a little bit? Some of our listeners may not know what palliative care is.
Sure. And thank you for having me today. I think what you're doing is amazing. And I love the idea of this roundtable. We don't spend enough time getting together, kind of supporting each other. So this is a really important thing that you're doing to support your alumni. So palliative care, these are kind of like the Avengers of our hospital system. Um, Oftentimes people confuse palliative care with hospice care, and it's not that. It's really about dealing with people who have serious chronic illness. Sometimes that is terminal illness, but providing them support that is what is considered interdisciplinary. So when you work in palliative care, you work alongside a pain management doctor, a nurse navigator who is key to getting the patient to all the things they need, a chaplain who can support their spiritual needs, a social worker who can help them just navigate life as a person with serious illness. And oftentimes that team has numerous other members. But more and more, we are seeing massage therapists as part of this palliative care world. And so Heal Well, which, one of our main missions is to help people understand that massage therapy is part of healthcare and should be integrated into more healthcare systems. We developed something called our Empath program, which stands for Massage Palliative Advanced Training for Healthcare. And as Jodi said, it's a 9-month program that involves synchronous online coursework. So we kind of meet as a cohort and have class every week. And then in the 3rd month of the program, our empaths, as we call them, start an externship at a local hospital or facility where they provide massage therapy 8 hours a week and work as part of that interdisciplinary team. And that's really the goal of the program, is to help them understand palliative care, but also help the interdisciplinary team understand the benefit that a massage therapist can bring to their work. And we have 11 empaths in our program right now. We are interviewing applicants for our 2nd class, but our first 11 are working in hospitals, hospices. A few are working in rural communities doing palliative care work. And what's really amazing is we have them in places that didn't have massage therapists as part of palliative care. They may have had massage therapists elsewhere, but almost all of the departments are either asking us for another empath next year, or the ability to really understand how to keep that massage therapist as part of that palliative care team, because they're doing such amazing work.
That is phenomenal. That is so interesting. I love introducing our audience to the idea of the interdisciplinary care.
Mhm.
It is just such a powerful model. Um, and I will, I feel like I could, what other question do I want to ask here? We'll put the information about your 9-month program in the chat. We'll put a link to your website so that our listeners can learn a little bit more about that. And for later
Sure.
on, we'll add that to our description as well. Because I want to talk to Lynn a little bit about manual lymph drainage. So we're going to change gears a little bit here. Interdisciplinary teams that, I mean, love that. Manual lymph drainage is also part of what could be an interdisciplinary team. Miss Lynn gets referrals post-op for her patients. I've introduced you to her. And Miss Lynn, I have a question for you. What first drew you to your specialty? Like, what first drew you in? So you're gonna let me go ahead and there we go. And I believe Tara, you may need to unmute. There we go.
Can
Yay.
you hear me?
Yeah, no, I can. Great.
Um, I was working at first out of school. You're just hustling and trying to build up clientels and working, I guess, about 2 or 3 jobs massaging. And one of the jobs that I was helping out within a massage place in Texarkana, we kept getting phone calls on um, lymphatic massages because these young ladies or these ladies just had surgery, whether it's lipo or tummy tucks or a mommy makeover. And the more I thought about it, I was like, there's an avenue here that has not been, um, that is growing in Texarkana, that there's not many folks. We all do deep tissue, we all do Swedish, uh, but not post op lymphatic.
Hmm.
And the more I talk about it to other massage therapists, I said, no, it's wide open. And so I took it and ran with it 3 years ago. And I'm the only one in town that is certified to do post op.
And
So
then how many clients a week? Not just your post-op, but how many clients a week are you seeing?
Oh, I took a break this year.
Okay, good.
I took a break this year in order to heal. So normally it's 5 a day that I see, 6 days a week, sometimes 7. It just varies. But this year I have made a decision to cut back in order to take care of my own self care. So I'm only seeing 3 a day this
Fantastic.
year.
But that's, I mean, but still, that's
Yes.
you're still seeing 3 a day, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Now,
Yeah. Yes.
how has specialized training shifted the way that your clients perceive your value? Like, because you're seeing a client post-op
Yes.
multiple times a week, right?
Yes, I'm seeing one today that was here Saturday. So it depends on their how far out from post-op they are. If they're within 2 weeks, then I see them more often than say 3 months.
Mhm.
If they're 3 months, and this is another avenue I took a step further on the post-op is body sculpture and body contouring because after 3 months they can handle a little bit more um, beyond the manual, beyond the hands. So you have machines to, and
Mhm.
I get to keep them longer, if that makes sense,
Yep.
to
Yep.
pull them in and have them stay longer with me. And then you're just building relationships. And next thing you know is it's all referrals. Mine is all referrals. No social media, no advertising. It just evolved.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, just by building relationships with these folks. And as you get to know, and they're referring you because when they go back to the surgeon for the follow up, they're giving my business cards to these locations, whether it's in Dallas or in Shreveport, Louisiana, or Little Rock. I'm right in the middle of the 4 states. So,
Wow.
yeah.
Now, do these clients that do the post-op manual lymphatic drainage, get some body sculpting, do they sometimes become massage clients?
Oh yes,
Yeah.
definitely, because
Okay.
they maintenance. I stress the self-care. I stress the self-care, and yes, they do. And then they're bringing their wives or their husbands or the grandmother, or it's just yeah. One week I had the mom and dad and the 2 sisters. So it just builds and builds and builds, and so it's all. I finally got to the point where I'm selective and just by appointments only.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, by referral only. And Miss Connie, I'm going to ask you the same question I just asked. I just asked Lynn, which is, so as an RN and with specialized training, uh, do your clients actually? I'll ask you this, Connie, and then I'll bounce back to Lynn and ask you the same question. Uh, what are you charging? Now you're in Oklahoma. We'll
Mhm.
just say Connie's in Oklahoma. Uh, how does your specialty perceive, your clients perceive your value? Do they go, oh wow, that's cool. Talk to me a little bit about that, Connie.
I think with me having my RN license as well, I'm also doing massages at the hospital. So I think the credibility there, because Oklahoma just recently, probably within the last 3 years or so, became to where you had to be licensed. Whereas, we have several certified massage therapists who they've grandfathered in. So I feel like now with the licensing board, it has that safety already in it by knowing that, you're a licensed massage therapist. But then also having my RN license, I feel like it just gives that safety and security to the clients. Because that is a big one. Even if I don't mention it to them, they'll be like, I saw on your business card that you're also a registered nurse. And so I think it just builds on the credibility.
hmm hmm And you've gone on to take additional training to become an executive coach, right?
Yes.
Very different direction. Right?
Yes.
But yet, I can really see the overlap,
Yeah.
in doing the body work and working with the body and the mind, right?
And what led me to that is I actually became attuned for Reiki.
Mm,
So I brought in the energy work with it. So I do like Reiki with massages. And then from there, it had me leading more into the whole spirituality part of it, manifestation, bringing in the mind, body, and soul, because we carry all this tension, but it starts energetically. And so that was the bridge between that going from Reiki, bringing that into massages, then also deciding to do breath work. And so bringing it all holistically around that we're not just treating the body. And
hmm
so that was the big turn with becoming and I went through Quantum Coaching Academy. So it was a lot of spirituality, mindset shifting, all of that went in with it. So it's just really helped me treat my clients all around.
That's fantastic. Thanks for this. And you're also planning a retreat, right? With a Reiki practitioner, right?
Yes.
And so that's going to be a multi-day retreat.
Mhm.
Yeah. So you're really kind of expanding into different revenue streams too, right?
Yep.
Now, and you decided to create a membership model, but not for massage, right?
Mhm. Right.
This is more for your coaching and
Mhm.
participating in your retreats.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
excellent.
It's just like I said, you start taking one path and it just opens the doors of how can I treat my cliently more? Like, how can I do more things besides just massage therapy? And really stressing the point of I've been on the medical side of it. I've been pushing medications, following the doctor's orders. Now, what can I do to help preventative?
hmm Yep, exactly, exactly. And so you've got different multiple revenue streams. Also, Lynn sells retail. I forgot to mention, Lynn has a retail part of her massage business where they can buy massage oils and creams, and you have a little bit of retail too, right?
I do a little bit, but mine's actually more going towards social media where I am an affiliate with like a scraping company to help with the deep tissue massages, and then also just Amazon affiliate to where I'm pushing like the massage cream I'm using, I'm pushing the things I'm using in my breath work and my Reiki. Like I'm able to funnel it through by advertising more with social media instead of in person.
Yeah, because of course so what Connie is talking about is an affiliate partnership. And so when she refers someone, like instead of just saying, oh, go down and to the local Walmart and buy this thing, she has a link that she can share with her clients that she gets either paid for, for a click, or she gets a discount code for her clients. So bravo, great example. Thanks for bringing that in. All right, so I'm going to move away from the licensed massage therapist back to a continuing education provider, Ms. Joy. So the majority of our listeners have not heard of Scarwork. And the work you're about to start doing with Todd, I believe, is on scars from C-sections. Is that correct?
Yeah. It's actually, we filmed a webinar and Todd is a dissector. So I showed the manual therapy of how to work with a woman that's had a C-section. And then he dissected a body that had a C-section. She could see how my techniques related to what was going on in the tissue. And we're going to do another one. So,
Great.
because of cadaver laws, that one closed, but then we're going to do another one that's going to be, you can like buy it anytime. It's not going to expire. So that's going to be through Anatomy Trains.
That is so interesting.
Yeah.
So, Anatomy Trains is known um, for its dissection of bodies, and for the dissection of bodies and looking at the fascial patterns, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Anatomy Trains is a school, a structural integration school started by a man named Tom Myers. And there's a book that's amazing. There's many editions of it by now. And I had it when I first started. It helped me a lot. But they do a lot of continuing ed for everybody, for Pilates, yoga, massage. There's just like welcome body nerds of any type.
It's true, right? Yeah, it's true. So we're going to pause here for just a moment because we have a special guest who's going to jump in. Oh, you can't hear? Okay, let's see. We are going to let's see if Tara, you can help James figure out his
Got it.
There we go.
I'm actually at the airport, so I'm gonna be whatever you want me to do. I can do that for while we're at the
Well,
airport.
first of all, let me introduce you. So we're having a panel discussion about continuing education. Joy was just talking to us about her work with Scarwork, and she's presenting with Todd Garcia a class for anatomy trains coming up. But our speaker, who you see right now, is James Wazlowski. And James is also a continuing ed provider. James does orthopedic massage. Orthomassage.net is his website. And James, you teach all over the country, don't you?
Yeah, Jodi, I think I teach 45 workshops a year in 15 countries. I just got back from Spain. We're getting ready to go to a retreat in Sicily. So I love my job, been doing this for 33 years, and I love inspiring the new and upcoming therapists.
And that's exactly who's here. And the reason I wanted you to be here was because I want the therapist, the newly licensed therapist, to know you can travel to get your CEs. The end of October, beginning of November, James has a trip. We're going to put that link in the chat. James is going for a week to Sicily, Italy. Talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, my wife's Italian, so we do 2 retreats every year in Italy. It's more about bonding, inspiring. It's more about lifting people up, encouraging them to do what their heart and passion desires in this industry. So we're doing the retreats probably forever until I can no longer teach.
Yes. And it is, it is something, in fact, later in our roundtable today, we're going to be hearing about budgeting for continuing education. And this is something that you probably would want to budget for, you know? Or if you've got that savings set aside for some continuing ed, this is one way to have an amazing vacation as well as learn some wonderful techniques and, more importantly, be around really cool people.
Well, Jodi, we were just here together at FSMTA, and you know as well as I do, the social aspect, the friendships, the camaraderie, the laughs, the dinners together. I think that's equally as important as the education because most of my career success in teaching in 15 countries around the world came from meeting people at these association meetings, AMTA, FSMTA, and most of them were not in the boardroom or the classroom. They were social interaction like we've had with you this weekend, and I think that's what these retreats are about. It's more about learning to enjoy the world, do your bucket list, have an experience. Obviously, I've been a therapist for 33 years, so I've really updated my training information too. I still go to schools. I still, if you have an association or a school, I still go there to do talks because I want to motivate. I was just with Benny Vaughn, and he met me right out of school. And Benny Vaughn said to me, I said, do you remember when I met you? I wanted to be like you. And this was in 1990. And so, and Benny's been doing massage for 50, 54, 55 years. A
Yeah,
little bit
Benny's
longer
worked a
than,
few
yeah.
Olympics. Yeah.
So I think the retreat thing was after COVID, people wanted to reconnect with heartfelt, loving connections and friendships and still write up your trip because you can go there and have fun. And so I really am honored to be part of this, especially what you're doing, Jodi. You've always been an entrepreneur, you've always been a business-minded lady, and I'm really honored to be part of this group. I mean, Ruth was just logged in and said, hi, Ruth Werner. There's so many cool people on here. It's cool. Thanks for the
Yeah.
invite.
Oh, yeah. So tell me, you're on your way to teach a class, right? You're at the airport, you're on your way
I'm
to
at the airport going back home, and then as you know, I'm on the road every weekend, so I'm back on the road. We're going to do a celebration of life for Dr. Eric Dalton next week, who was my mentor. I studied with him for 27 years. We became really close friends. So we're doing a celebration of life in Oklahoma next weekend, just to honor his legacy and his contribution to the profession and the kinds of friendships that you see that some of my colleagues and us have. So
amazing, amazing. And so you were teaching while you were here at the Florida State Conference,
yep.
right?
Yep.
What did you teach this past weekend?
I taught integrated kinetic chain knee pain because 90% of knee pain comes from the hip and the foot. So we had people look at the bones of the foot, the ligaments of the foot, the muscles of the foot, the hip capsule, the sacral torsions. And what's cool about the new and upcoming therapist, something I learned, Jodi, is I don't want to overwhelm you with all this clinical knowledge, but there can be 13 causes of knee pain. And what we do is we do one assessment, one slide. This is what it is. It's a ligament, it's a muscle, it's a tendon because a lot of speakers are so over, like it's taking a sip of information from a fire hose. But the way I teach now, because of my daughter being autistic and, being on she cannot learn if I taught fast, and she cannot learn if she doesn't get touched, and she cannot learn if she doesn't see a picture of what the technique is doing. So because of the learning styles, I barely passed high school. And because of that, because I could not read a book, listen to a lecture and pass a test. I'm very visual, I'm very kinesthetic. So the gift I have is to help people learn from different styles of learning.
Oh,
And
yeah.
I think we had a fun time. We always have two cameras. We always have window in window where you're seeing the pathology of what we're doing. And we have on here we have Ruth Werner, the author of pathology. So understanding that and how to evaluate and match the technique to the pathology of the condition is vital. But I've really slowed. I'm speaking fast now because I got to catch a plane in about a half hour. But really slowed things down where like I just want you to have that aha moment, no matter how you learn, whether you learn from me touching you, and I'm very when I was in high school and college, people go, "You're doing this wrong," and then you shut down and you cower. So I'm like, "You have great potential." That's the first thing I would say when I try to correct somebody's technique or skill. You have great potential. You're doing awesome, but could I tweak that a little bit? So I'm 68 years old. I probably won't retire till I'm Eric Dalton's age, 81, because I get high every time I get to teach. And I see those students light bulbs goes on and those therapists light bulbs going on. And I'm going, this is why I'm here. This is my purpose.
Exactly. And as a longtime continuing ed provider, I resonate with that. You as a longtime provider, I resonate with that because of teaching the MBLEX review, and something that somebody didn't get in school.
Yep.
that they need to pass the MBLEX, or that they need to treat that patient, that client with diabetes, or that client with knee pain, or frozen shoulder.
Yep.
So I know these are all the orthopedic. I want to come back to mentioning that James does orthopedic massage. So it's really rooted in the muscles, the bones, the tendons, the ligaments, but does it in a way that is to allow your client to become pain-free or to enhance performance. It's not just for all these athletic bodies. It's really for every body.
And Jodi, as you know, over 33 years, I'm now certified in cranial osteopathy. I'm certified in lymphatic drainage. I'm certified with total body balancing. After 33 years, this weekend I took a class with Carey on lymphatic, and I'm certified with him. I took a course with Lynn and Ann Teachworth on functional movement. And one thing I know after 33 years of studying with world leaders, like I studied with Eric Dalton for 28 years in a row, spinal biomechanics, is one, we have to make it exciting. Number two, we have to keep you curious. And number three, like Ruth Werner would acknowledge, we have to be based on research. We have to be very scientific. So everything we do is based on and Whitney Lowe affected my career because we have to evaluate, palpate, special tests. Is it a full body lesion? Is it just a shoulder? So the more I know, the more I realize I don't know. I know quite a bit,
Mhm.
but the more you know, the more you realize you don't know, and you're just hungry. I think 2 weeks before Eric Dalton passed away, he said, "Jim, stay curious, stay hungry, keep it compassionate, make people have fun, and lift their spirits, and make them think, no matter what anybody's ever told you, how smart or good enough you weren't, which I've been told when I was younger, you can do it. I mean, if your heart is into it, like my daughter loves animals and she just want to work with babies and pediatrics and horses. Whatever your heart's into is what you should specialize with. I just took the MBLEX. I told you that this weekend.
Yeah.
I live in Texas. I've been licensed for 33 years in Florida. And Benny Vaughn wanted me to do some work with him and with world-class athletes. So I took the MBLEX a year ago. I was actually nervous. I thought, what if I failed the MBLEX? And what would people say? I've been doing this for 33 years. I think I know what I'm doing. I think I'm pretty smart. But then my daughter goes, because she passed the MBLEX the first time with her autism and stuff. And she goes, I'll help you. I'll help you study. But I left there going, what if I don't try to process what ifs. It's like so the
Yeah.
emphasis was well done, and I think we've got a great profession, and I think we are the forefront of medicine. I don't think someday we'll be called alternative and complementary medicine. I think more people now than ever are coming to massage as forefront medicine. And
Yeah.
so I think I get excited. I want to keep doing this for another 20 years.
Thank you so much for sharing your story
Yeah.
about being nervous about taking the MBLEX.
Oh,
Because so many I think everybody is, no matter how experienced you are, no matter how much you think you know. And I love that you said, the more I know, the more I realize I don't know.
exactly.
Yeah, yeah. Well, thank you for being here. I am going to let you get back to your family and focus on getting yourself home. But I really appreciate you popping in, James. It means the world.
Thank you, Jodi, and thanks for letting me part of this organization. You are such an entrepreneur, and I would love to anything else you want to do like this. I would be honored to be part of this amazing group that I see on this. So you guys have a blessed day, and it was an honor to be part of your group. Thank you so much.
Oh, thanks, James.
You're
Yes, thanks.
welcome.
All right. Safe travels.
Thank you.
We are back to our panel. But just how fun is that? Yeah. Uh, all right. We're back to our panel discussion. We were talking so just so fun to have long-time continuing ed providers drop in, have a word with us, and inspire, right? I feel like I was like, wow, that was just awesome to get a perspective on that. I did not realize James was taking classes while he was here. Isn't that fun? That as a continuing ed provider, he's taking classes. I mean, he's teaching and he's taking. So a lifelong student is kind of the message from that. And Joy, I'd like to come back to you because we were talking about your scar work and how you saw in a cadaver who had had a C-section the physical of what you were explaining in your technique. Talk to us a little bit more about scar work.
Um, I fell in love with scar work, basically because it actually it's actually how to do skillful touch, just really precisely. So my scar work class, my first scar work class, I actually like learned how to touch all kinds of tissue differently. And
Mm.
that's why I've just every class I teach, every class I take, because I have this scar work lens, I just get better at feeling what's really going on in the tissue versus what my like anatomy brain thinks it should be. Because scar work is always contrasting. You're finding things like, how did that get there? Um, and it changes under your hands. So I guess scar work is like a tactile art that a woman named Sharon Wheeler created. She's a gem. 78 years old, and she's been uh, practicing 55 years. She studied with Ida Rolf, and in her 50s, I think, she realized that she had been doing all these things with scars that no other practitioners were doing. And so she started to teach. And I'm just like her in a way, in that like the way she teaches is if you if you like the class and you want to take it again, which a lot of people want to take this class over and over, you can host her. You can host, if you go to sharonwheeler.com, you can host all of us wherever you are.
Wow.
That's kind of how the organization works. She defined people that were willing to travel, which is great. And what what scar work does is it helps the tissue go from I call it like a abandoned construction zone back into normal healthy smooth tissue. Um, and so it involves like lymph work. It involves working even in the periosteum. It involves fascia work. It's kind of all the things, all the layers through, so that the area that had the injury and the surrounding areas that had to support the injury finally get what it needs.
Hmm. And is there an entry level class that you would recommend? Because for the listeners, they might have heard that word periosteum go by and they're like, oh, what was that again? And so it can be a little intimidating, right?
Mm. Um, yeah, periosteum is the like connective tissue around the bone. And I just think of like all these big anatomy words are just describing a piece of tissue. So once you get it, you get it. And I think a lot of people, once they see a picture of what the vocabulary is that we're using, an entry level course. So all the courses are the same. Every Scarwork course that I've been in assisting or um, taught has people that have been doing it 30 years and beginners, because it's really about the art of it. It's really about honing, like, are you feeling through the cuticles of your nails? Are you feeling through the webs of your fingers? Are you able to feel into the skin layer down to the fascia layer? And in the class, we teach you how to do that. I've taken the class as a student, I think like 4 times before I started assisting, because you get something new out of it every time. You learn the techniques, but the second part of the class is actually the hosts and the teachers bring in models. So you get to work on people that have had scars, and that's the community aspect. It's really cool to um, try techniques under supervision and sort of collaborate with other therapists in the room. That's why I took it so many times. I got so much better so quickly.
Wow. And so what I hear you saying is that even if you're a new therapist, if you're curious about this work, you don't really need a prerequisite.
Not at all.
Wow. Cool. Cool. Well, let me jump back over to Erica because it made me think of another question. Erica, same question. Oncology massage. I don't want to make anyone sicker. You know what I mean? Um, could you, what if you're entry level? What if what if you're entry level? What if, are you going to be able to feel comfortable in a Heal Well oncology class?
Absolutely. I mean, I think as massage therapists, right, we all kind of realize that we are going to just keep learning as we go, as we embrace different types of clients. I know when I got trained back in 1998, there were all these no's. And as years passed, all of those things changed, including the concept of working with cancer patients. And my practice basically developed because I was the therapist who was going to figure out how to work on anybody. I really didn't care how significant their medical history was. I was really dedicated to the fact that they could receive safe touch. And so Healwell brings that concept into class. Our classes are really well developed, and our oncology class actually has two parts. It has an online, what we call a prerequisite or an online bundle, which are a bunch of small courses, right? And as James said, a lot of times the most effective way to help people learn is through visuals, but also in small chunks. So we have a bunch of short classes that people take to help with foundational knowledge about cancer, and cancer is a huge topic. And then what we think is kind of the best practice is you take that bundle and then you find an in-person class that we're teaching. We teach oncology massage around the country. We have a class coming up in Pennsylvania in May in 2026. And right now we are working on getting a class in the Chicago, Evanston, Illinois area, also in 2026. But to take an in-person class with us, which is 3 days, 8 hours per day. And on the last day, we do a clinic where we bring in people with cancer or have had a history of cancer and have our students work on those folks under supervision, which, as Joy said, is an amazing, amazing part of the experience. And we want people right out of school. The reality, particularly with oncology, is the American Cancer Society says that 1 out of 3 Americans in the next 10 years is going to have their life affected by cancer, whether that is they have cancer in their family, there's cancer within a client population, or even with someone closer to them or themselves. So it is inherent upon us as massage therapists that we understand how to treat this population as safely and effectively as possible. And there's tons of research that shows the positive impact that massage can have for a person in treatment, as well as living post-cancer treatment. Lynn does the MLD work because many cancer patients get lymphedema. We can benefit things like neuropathy, the fatigue that is long lasting, sometimes the pain from chemotherapy, the surgical changes that have to happen oftentimes that involve scar tissue work. So all of these things that we've been talking about really make sense when you're talking about working in oncology. But to have that foundational class so that you know that person with a cancer history can come into your practice or wherever you're working, right? Because that's the thing. People just go where we are. They don't literally sit down and go, I should have care with this person. They go where the massage is. So they're walking into the massage envies, the big box gyms, all of the franchises with their cancer history. And we should know how to treat them safely so that, one, we don't have to turn them away. So I want people right out of school. I want people who know that they have a responsibility to their client population, but also an opportunity for themselves to have a private practice or a business that grows because they know this specialty.
Mm-hmm. Fantastic. And this is exactly what I wanted our listeners to hear, that it can feel intimidating. It can feel overwhelming. And I mean, I even hearing you talk about patients with cancer coming in, I'm like, like, oh my goodness, I have to actually touch somebody with cancer now?
Mm-hmm.
Yes, actually, because they are going to show up in your practice and they may or may not tell you, right? And so, but having that confidence, having enough of an education that you can feel comfortable not knowing what you don't know.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, okay, I don't know about that type of cancer. Talk to me. which again builds that rapport. So it's just great for our audience to hear that this isn't for 5 years down the road. Yeah, this is, let's get a base of knowledge going now. Yeah. All right, so I'm going to switch gears and go back over to ask Connie and Lynn a question. And Connie and Lynn, I'm curious if you have any continuing education on your radar. I was at the Florida State conference this weekend. One of my classes that I did was Protocol for Diabetes and I loved it. It was so much fun to be learning versus teaching. Um, but Connie and Lynn, what's on your radar as far as taking a class? I know you might have all done a lot of continuing ed already, so you may not have anything on your radar. But if you were going to pick something that was on the radar for, say, maybe in the next 3 to 5 years, what would that be? Connie, you want to get us started?
Yeah. Currently, I am finishing up my breathwork certification, and then I am this fall going for my master level of Reiki. So those are the two things that are on for this year.
Fantastic. And Lynn, what's on your radar? Hmm.
And so I do, as far as government, I don't know exactly when, what, but it takes a while. So it looks like trauma might be in the line for me because you're dealing with the disabled vets. So
Oh,
I will be looking into that also. One thing is you just don't stop. I mean, ideas, keeping that funnel open and because I don't know how long this will play out for the post op, but my business will continue because of the medical massage and the needs of these folks here. But the avenue of the VA might open up, and if that's the case, then I need to be prepared and look into the trauma
yep.
avenue.
So you have an opportunity that's come up with the VA hospital locally, right?
Yes, when I was in massage school, I had volunteered for the VA for 3 years. And by doing that, they know who I am. And now that the opportunity to do contract work has finally materialized, they contacted me and asked me to fill out the paperwork. And we'll just wait and see.
So it's let's see what doors open, right?
Sure.
And
Yes.
that's
Yeah.
also, I mean, again, for the benefit of our audience, that we just continue to grow, right?
Yes. You
Continue
have
to
to.
to see what's available.
Yep.
So,
Yep. And it all intertwines in the massage aspect of it from the basic. And then you take it one step further and one step further. And there's just endless. It's endless. The specialty that you can get into.
mm. Well, looking at our time, and ladies, I want to ask you to formulate a word of encouragement. So for our listeners, um, if you could give them uh, one piece of encouragement or inspiration as they consider their next continuing education step, what would you tell them? Mm. Sure, Joy.
I would say find the communities and teachers that you really feel like you can belong with, that support skills you already have and how to synthesize them as to wherever like your emergent path wants to go. Just like
Mm.
let let the intuitive part of you lead
Mhm.
where you want to be.
Fantastic. Thanks, and Joy, you've definitely done that. I mentioned in your introduction that you spent some time in the Ukraine, and I just want to say thank you so much for training massage therapists in the Ukraine and body workers and physios on how to treat soldiers who've had amputations. It's really profound to think about that work, and so thanks for doing that,
Thanks for sharing, and it's actually as good for me, I think, too. So
right? Isn't that interesting?
Yeah.
Joy said, she said, again, could you just say that one more time?
Oh, that it's as meaningful for me too, to be able to learn from these men.
Absolutely. And another word of encouragement, ladies, was or a closing comment as we wrap up the panel.
I guess I would just encourage people to be curious. There's
Mm,
so much to learn. There's also so much to like review. So take advantage of all of it as much as possible. Um, take things that are interesting to you.
Mhm.
Don't just get CE credits because you need them to maintain your license or your registration. Really do things that move you. And I know for myself, it opens so many doors in terms of my business and my own evolution as a practitioner. And one thing that just came to mind is the beautiful concept that for us, that because we have all of these different things that we can learn and that we can legally practice in our scope of practice, um, you're never obsolete. So massage therapy gives you the ability to reinvent yourself all the time. I've been
mm.
doing this 27 years and I had to move out of deep tissue work because it just was hard physically. And so now
Mhm.
I do lymphatic drainage and I do geriatric massage, and I've evolved so that I can keep massaging into my 80s, which is very far off from my age right now. Um, but um, that's the goal. So always know that this work gives you the ability
Mhm.
to reinvent yourself and keep working, because so many people need this work and we know that.
Mm. And I love that. Reinvent yourself and listen to your intuition as far as who you're resonating with your clientele. Miss Connie, I see your mic is open. Did you have another thought?
What came to mind was just listening to what brings you joy, really connecting with that, and just knowing that your possibilities are limitless. You can, as Erica had said, reinvent yourself over and over. Like there's no one way.
Hmm. Fantastic. Fantastic. Ladies, thank you so much for participating in the panel. I am inspired by what you guys are doing. Honestly, it is just, I love that our profession is so vibrant. I love that we have captured the journey of two therapists and the journey of two CE providers and really rounded out what could be the next steps, the specialty for our newly licensed therapists. Thank you for sharing from your wisdom, from your heart, and we really appreciate it. So. We are going to move along to the next segment of our agenda today. And that segment is we are going to be hearing from Miss Tara. Yes. So my operations manager, Tara, she has put together some thoughts about, all right, now I want to go to the Ukraine. I want to go to Italy. I want to go, I want to go, travel to do my CEs. I want to take all of the classes, right? Um, and so let me do this. All right. So now that you've been inspired to do all these different things, how the heck are you going to afford it? Well, you could find a sponsor. You could ask your family. However, Tara has a better plan. She's going to show you how you are, and her title of her talk today is budgeting for your CEs. During the MLEX, and if you're part of our alumni support or our business mentoring, you hear me talk about budgeting. You hear me talking about your finances because this is an important part of the profession, of being successful in the profession. So, Miss Tara, I'm going to hand the floor over to you. Could you just give a little bit of your background, since I don't have my intro of you handy? Right. And
Yeah.
so, what is your education, Miss Tara?
Yes. So I've been a massage therapist for 22 years. Taught massage therapy, worked in education since 2008, massage therapy and traditional colleges. I teach marketing classes online for 2 different colleges. I have my master's degree in marketing and my bachelor's in business and associates in business as well. So it's a little bit about me. Been with Jodi for almost a year, getting there.
Yeah. And
Helping
do
her
you
with
have
all.
any pets?
I have a few, just a few. Just a few, just a couple cats, more like creatures.
Yeah, cat
I
mommy.
invested. Yes, I got 6 cats. My oldest is she 13 now, and the youngest will be 2 this year.
Aw. So, a little bit about Tara, but Tara, go ahead, take the floor. And I believe that you can share your screen.
Yes, I can.
And if we could do this in about 10 to 15 minutes, that would be awesome.
Yep, absolutely. So, a little bit of why I chose budgeting for continuing education to kind of talk to you guys about this is because when it comes to financial literacy, it's very important. As massage therapists, we realize there's a cost to be in this profession. So, not just license renewal, MBLEX, we have the continuing education, we have certifications that we keep up. If you're doing like board certification, you might have to do continuing education for that as well. So there's a lot of different areas to explore when it comes to continuing education. But the most important is understanding this is going to cost some money. And if you don't have a sponsor or an employer willing to put up that money, it's going to fall on you. So you need to understand the costs associated with it and make sure you're preparing now for something that you're not going to maybe need for another year or two when it comes to renewal for your license. So the very first step is to make sure you know what is required in your state. So looking up your state regulations on what you need to do for your continuing education. So for example, Pennsylvania, we just renewed, so I swear I renew and I instantly forget what I have to do. But I do know it's 24 hours of credits that we have to get. We need to do a certain amount in ethics. We have to do 16 in person in a classroom. So no online, 16 of them have to be in person in classroom. You can't do those online. You can't do them on webinar. You have to put your butt in a seat and be there. You have to do CPR, but CPR doesn't count as one of your credits, but you still have to have it. And then we have to do mandatory reporting as well, which means it has to do with that child abuse. So you're a mandated reporter, meaning if you witness a child being abused, you're required to report it. So you have to do, I believe it's 2 credits for renewal. So those are for Pennsylvania, what I need to do. Because I'm licensed in 2 states, and I have my board certification. I have a spreadsheet and it has my states and my board certification and it has what's required. And as I take a class, I fill in what I've done. And that keeps me on track. I know when I need to renew. I know what I still need to get for each one. So that keeps me on track. So if you're licensed in more just one state or have your board certification, I recommend having some sort of tracking system as well. So make sure you know how many you need and any specific classes that you might need to take. So this is just a very generic overview. So if you're doing 24 continuing education credits for every 2 years, the typical cost is $25 to $30 per hour. So to complete all 24, you're looking around $600 to $720 to complete all 24 hours of the requirement. Now, obviously, if your state is 36 hours for every 2 years or 12 hours every 1 year, that is going to change how you kind of budget for it. But for my examples in here, I'm saying 24 CEs every 2 years. So we have the CE cost at $600, $720 for the 24 hours. Then there's other elements you want to consider. Are you traveling? Are you leaving your state to travel? Are you having to rent a car once you get there? So airfare to get there. Let's say you're from Pennsylvania and you're going out to California. Let's say you're going to fly, because I can't imagine wanting to do that drive, but you fly out there. So you have to pay for your flight, pay for a hotel, and pay for a car rental. So those are the three things are going to add into your cost. So you can kind of see how it's going to increase as you kind of make these plans. Don't forget also, you got food costs in there as well. That's going to play a role. So you can see how kind of the 600, 720, you're like, okay, that's not bad. But you then start adding in that traveling, the hotel stay. So a couple things to bring down that cost. Let's say you have a credit card that you get air flight miles on that helps save the cost, or hotel credit for saving some costs. You could also arrange to share a car rental or hotel room with somebody that you're going with. So having a CE buddy to go with, and you guys are always going to travel for your CEs, and you guys are agreed to CEs to do, which is also really nice because when you get there, a lot of times they pair you up. And so you have your partner to kind of work through. And that's always fun to have somebody you know to work on. And then when you come back to your home state, then you have somebody to trade with, so you really practice your CE. So you can see how the cost kind of can add up. Some tips for saving money. Like I said, have that spreadsheet to kind of plan out where you need to put your CEs for your renewals, but spread out your CEs. So if you have to do 24, do 12 one year, 12 the next year. A lot of times, and I'm very guilty of this, I will survive one renewal. Yes, I got all my 24 in. Whew. Then the next year comes around and I'm just like, I just did all this. I don't want to do it again. So I don't do my 12. So then I put myself in the same boat where I'm trying to get 24 in 1 year. And so I get into this little cycle of I should have done it, but I was so overwhelmed that I got through the first year that I didn't plan. So spread out those CEs. Do 6 maybe in the first 6 months of the first year, and then 6 more the next 6 months. So plan it out. Look for package deals. If you know what specialty you want to go into, look for those deals. Look for when they're offering like early bird specials, that kind of stuff. You want to look for those deals that help you. Some even will do the hotel bundled into the package, or they have the what's it called, the hotel blocks, where you get a discount if you do the hotel block and you got to schedule or you got to reserve your hotel time at a certain time. Online CE options, they are going to be a little bit more affordable and more convenient for you because you don't have to add the travel costs, but make sure your state accepts them. So like in Pennsylvania, I can do some CEs online, but 12 of mine have to be in person. So the rest can be online, but those 12 have to be in person. So I can do all the rest of mine online if I want to, but I have to meet my in-person requirements. So make sure it's accepted. Watch for sales and promotions, and plan your CEs around something you're passionate about. I believe somebody already talked about this, but if you're turning it into a career investment, going into something that you're going to specialize in, making it something that you're passionate about, you're going to be more inclined to spend the money on it. You're going to see that return on investment for it, where you're going to book those clients. If you do like cranial sacral therapy CE, you start booking those clients, you're going to see that return on investment. Oh, I spent this money. Now I see it coming back. All my work and effort and money put into it is coming back to me. I can see that. So a timeline for planning, kind of mentioned this a little bit, but again, this is based off 2 years. The first year, the first 6 months, this is where you're researching, planning, setting a budget, determining how much money you have to set aside. The next 6 months of that first year, this is when you're going to take those 6 to 12 CEs, knock them out, get them done. if you're like me, where you can do some online, you can do those first. You can do them last. Sometimes I like to save them for last. I'll buy them when they're running a deal at Christmas time, and then I will complete the CE that second year of it. So I like to play the CE juggle where I'm completing it where it falls in line of renewal things. So another reason why I have my spreadsheet. That second year, the first 6 months, you're reassessing, looking at what you still need to do, looking at the cost for what still needs to be done, completing those last CEs and looking to what your renewal is. Pay attention to renewal costs. I know for Pennsylvania, we started at $65 when I first started for renewal, $65. We are up to $175 and it keeps increasing. The last time they discussed it, we did a slow increase. So I think we're now at the highest we've been. And don't quote me on those prices because again, I hit the submit and I immediately forget till I need to look at it again. So don't quote me if you're in Pennsylvania and using my knowledge as word at this moment. I did not research my state's information at this moment. But make sure you know what the price is going to be. And who knows, they may increase it on me and I don't know it yet. So somebody will tell me or I'll look it up. So yeah, just make sure you know what the price is. So you don't want to get all your C's done and be like, oh no, I didn't save for my renewal. So it's not just the CEs, you got to save for that renewal as well. And if you're renewing in multiple states or your national certification, make sure you have all those prices listed as well for yourself. Again, a spreadsheet. Some final thoughts, continuing education, it's not just to keep your license. I believe one of our guest speakers spoke on this. It's also to keep you interested in massage therapy. It's to keep you growing. It's to make you better for your clients. I'm 22 years in and my beginning of my career was all deep tissue, trigger points, sports. It was all of that. And I love all of that. All right. But I'm 22 years in. I am getting older. My body's getting older. I have different medical requirements, my own medical needs now that I need to pay attention to. Those aren't potentially my ideal clients anymore. Still love those clients, but they're potentially, as I grow, not my ideal clients. So you have to think about as you grow as a massage therapist or as life hits you differently, you're going to have to make those changes. And maybe you become more energy work. Maybe you become lymphatic drainage, cranial sacral, where it is more of a gentler technique. So you have to kind of gauge that on like, oh, do I have to pivot this? Is this something I still want to stay in? I'll give you an example of, I used to do a lot of chair events and loved doing chair events. So much fun. But my left wrist started showing a lot of issues. And so I had to modify how I was doing chair massage. And it just started to become more and more not comfortable. It's becoming painful for my wrist. Having somebody on the table became easier. And as much as I love chair massage, it is a no-go now. I cannot do it if I want to do regular massage anymore. So that was one way I had to pivot. I was booking quite a bit of chair events, but it's not something that I could sustain anymore because my body started to change. And just to state, I don't think massage caused my wrist pain. I think it's just genetics. Not the best joints in my family. So one of them was bound to go. It happened to be my, luckily for me, left wrist, which benefits me in a different way. But having my dominant hand still good is great. But my left wrist, I have to pay attention to more. Also, if you're a business owner, independent contractor, when you take continuing education classes, these are all write-offs. So I'm not a tax professional. Please talk to your tax professional on this, but make sure you're saving receipts, writing it down, logging it in whatever program you're using for tax purposes. Everything, cost of traveling, car rentals, food, your CE costs, all of that is a tax deduction and will help you on your taxes. So save all that information. Please talk to your tax professional on the best way to deduct those. All right, Jodi, that's all I've got for them today.
Fantastic. Thank you, Tara. Oh my goodness. This is the back end of the business, right? Yes, we're out there finding clients, we're out there hustling, but this is like foundational principles to success. So, thanks so much for giving us some hints about how to afford our continuing education, how to plan ahead, how to budget for that, how to think bigger than just, oh, it's $700 for a class. If we're going to travel for stuff, there's other considerations on those expenses. Thanks for sharing that. Well done. Well done. Hopefully now you're opening those savings accounts, right? And starting to put $25 a week in there. Yay. All right. We are changing gears into our next segment of our agenda. And the next segment of our agenda has to do with Miss Ruth Werner. Yes, and I want to give you just a little background on Ruth, because if you're a newly licensed therapist, you may not have heard of her. And uh, I remember thinking, "Oh, I know that name." It's 20 years ago. I'm like, oh, I think I know that name. Yeah, I looked at my textbook and Ruth's name was on it. I was sitting with her at a conference, sitting near her at a conference. And I was like, oh my gosh, she wrote my textbook. Yeah, she wrote your textbook. Yep. So Ruth is a retired board certified massage therapist with over 40 years of experience. She is the author of A Massage Therapist's Guide to Pathology, now in its seventh edition. Can you show the cover of that, Ruth? Because I bet you our listeners will be like, oh, I recognize that book. That's the book that Ruth built. All right. She, of course, is an NCB TMB approved provider of continuing education. And this book, this Massage Therapist Guide to Pathology, was really groundbreaking because it was produced by Lippincott in 1998, and it was the first book they ever made specifically for massage therapists. It was really groundbreaking. Uh, Ruth is also a podcaster. She hosts a podcast called I Have a Client Who. I have a client who. And so in it, she tackles crazy conditions. Oh my goodness. We're gonna put the link to her podcast in the chat. There we go. And just take a look at half of these things I've never even heard of. So uh, let's see.
Oh, now.
So in her podcast, she brings real world case studies, case stories.
People send me notes. People send me letters.
Yep.
Wanting to know more
About
about certain situations. And some of them are not rare at all. I mean, I get tons and tons of letters about blood clots, right?
Mhm.
And some of them are a little obscure, and some of them are just sort of combinations of things where a massage therapist is maybe not 100% confident about the best ways to move forward. So I use those as an opportunity to explore topics and learn things, but also to um, I don't end up giving a lot of advice. What I do end up giving is a lot of validation for being cautious and wanting to do your very best, and maybe some ideas about how not to do harm. But I'm much. It would be inappropriate for me to tell people things to do. I don't give recipes. I don't give uh, treatment guidelines. It's more about how can I help you figure out what your best choices are?
Let's jump right into that because today our goal is to demonstrate what great continuing education looks like. And you have some online education, you teach live, you have online courses, and in fact, you're kind of known for putting humor into your classes. And so let's do a real world example. You talked about blood clots, DVT. We have clients who walk in and say, "Oh, I'm shooting. Tell me a little bit about DVT or a blood clot, and what are some of the precautions that our listeners would want to remember?"
Well, I'm hoping, oh, thank you, whoever is posting these links. Thank you, Tara. Excuse me. First of all, I need to say to everybody who's here today, I will live with a chronic low-grade cough. I'm not sick. It is just part of a legacy of having lived at very high altitude and very poor air quality for 15 years. I'm no longer in that setting. And during that time I was teaching and singing and doing a lot of other things that were just really hard on my uh, vocal apparatus. Anyway, and I haven't been talking so far today, so I'm a little bit, it'll clear up in a minute. All right. So I'm going to make an assumption that people who are here with us are people who recently passed their MBLEX, right? Jodi, this is
Yes.
what we've identified, yes? And so you already know about blood clots. I mean, from the very first day of school, when they tell you don't touch varicose veins, oh my God, whatever you do, don't touch a varicose vein, which is wrong. But it's, we learn off the bat some really basic kind of safety precautions. And the what I have learned over the years, because when I went to massage school, it was very much this is indicated and this is contraindicated, and there were some sort of bright lines drawn between these things that turn out to be incredibly fabulously blurry, which is why we now have people who do cancer massage, right? Or people who are working with very sick children, or people who are working with people who are dying. None of those were populations that were identified as appropriate for massage therapy when I went to school. I was trained to work with healthy people who had a little extra money. And that's a great population, right, to focus on, because relaxation massage, in my opinion, is the hardest kind of work there is to do. Because, man, you have to get outside of yourself to be that present with a person. I am much more comfortable, when I was in practice, was much more comfortable working with people who had specific sort of orthopedic goals, like, let's work with your neck injury from your car wreck, or let's work with your shoulder injury from moving the refrigerator, or, things like that. I have completely lost track. So we were talking about.
We're talking about blood clots.
Right,
And so
right.
someone walks
So
in, you find out, oh, they've got this history. What are
let me
some
tell
of
you a
the,
story. Here's an I
yes,
have
I
a
was going to say,
client
tell us a
story.
story, bust a myth or.
Here's an I have a client whose story. I worked for a massage school in Salt Lake City for many years, for 9 years. I was there. And I did not run or have anything to do with their student clinic, but I happened to be in the building one afternoon when the student clinic was running, and the clinic manager came and found me and said, "We have this person who has just appeared at our student clinic, and she says she has blood clots in her leg, and her doctor wants her to get massage to improve her circulation." And I said, "Does her doctor hate her?" Because because if we think about it just for a second, if a person's been diagnosed with blood clots, and in particular if those blood clots are relatively new, and I'll come back to the sort of older situation in a minute, right? But if this is a relatively new onset of things, if something fragments, we sometimes we'll draw a word picture of like the whole clot coming loose and moving through the body. What's more likely to happen is it will break into pieces and move. But if you track a blood clot from the leg, which is where we usually talk about these things happening, that's not the only place that can happen. But when we talk about a blood clot coming up from the leg, if you can picture in your mind the anatomy, we're going up the popliteal vein and up the great saphenous vein, and now we're in the iliac vein, and now we're in the bottom of the vena cava. And what's happening to these blood vessels is they're getting bigger and bigger and bigger, right? So there's no place. This clot or these clot fragments are going to travel until the blood vessels telescope down to be too small for them to go any further. So they'll just keep traveling. They'll just keep moving. Now we're in the vena cava. We're coming up through the thorax. Lots of room. Now we're in the superior vena cava and going down into the heart, into the right atrium of the heart. No reason for that blood clot to stop. There's plenty of room in the right atrium. The heart beats. It passes through the valve and goes into the right ventricle. The heart beats. It passes through the valve. Now we're in the pulmonary artery. So far, this is a one-way street. This is the only place this can go. All right, now we're in the pulmonary artery. And as the pulmonary artery goes out toward the lungs with a whole bunch of blood pressure behind it, right? Now these clot fragments are being forced into telescoping blood vessels, because this is where the arteries get smaller, smaller, smaller again. And what I have just described, of course, is a pulmonary embolism. Okay, so this is how a situation in the leg ends up being a situation in the lungs. And in pre-COVID, because of course all of our statistics about blood clotting and death by blood clotting and everything have changed since then. But pre-COVID, we saw, if I remember correctly, something like 200,000 diagnosed pulmonary emboli a year and 60,000 deaths. That makes it a pretty substantial cause of death in the realm of things that kill people in this country. And we massage therapists would like to not contribute to that statistic, which is why we are very, very, very cautious. And you are taught from your first day of school, I hope, to be really, really cautious about blood clots in the legs and why we don't work with varicose veins. Now, one of the things that I have learned over the years is that there's very, very little rubber stamping in making decisions about working with people who have diseases or disorders or any kind of sort of obstacle between them and ideal health, right? And there are situations where a person can have developed blood clots in their legs that are super stable and wrapped up by scar tissue and sort of, part of their whole structure at this point, in which case it is unlikely that massage is going to break something loose. However, the key factor there is whether it's safe for this person to exercise. And so if you have worked with my book, or if you ever do any classes with me, you will hear me say a lot that our decisions about massage are really based on how well this person can adapt to changes in their environment, right? And so if this person can safely take a brisk 20-minute walk and not be at risk for pulmonary embolism, it is unlikely that massage will make anything worse, right? And so when you are pulling your hair out, trying to figure out, is massage a good idea for this person? That's a hard question to answer because massage looks like so many different things, right? But one of the pieces of information that's really important to gather is, what are this person's activities of daily living like? What can they tolerate? Can they, run up and down their stairs 10 times a day and not feel it? You're probably going to be in good shape. On the other hand, if they need to stop and catch a breath on their way out to get the mail from their mailbox, maybe this person isn't a great candidate for the kind of massage that puts a lot of demand on the body. But here's the cool thing. You probably have kinds of massage in your toolbox among your skill sets that don't require big changes, big adaptations in a person's ability to maintain that stable internal environment. And so, maybe a rock'em sock'em sports massage is not the best idea for your person who has to stop and take a rest on their way to the mailbox, but maybe some gentle laying on of hands, some Reiki, some cranial sacral, some some work that doesn't put a big demand on the kidneys and on the heart is going to make them feel great, help them to sleep better, give them all kinds of benefits that they are hoping to receive from massage without putting them at risk. And ultimately, that's where it's at, is what is the worst thing that can happen? Sorry, this is distracting. This is it's a oven rack burn.
Yeah.
Had a little issue with a hot oven rack. Um, Ultimately, the question is this: what's the worst thing that can happen if a massage therapist is undereducated and not paying attention, didn't get enough information, and is not compassionate, right? And what's the best thing that can happen if a massage therapist is, if you're well educated, if you're paying close attention, if you got good information to help you make your clinical decisions? And can you create a session that gets you the best benefits without the risks? And the answer to that question almost always is yes. Yes, you can figure out a way to offer structured, welcomed, educated touch to a person, even someone who's very frail, which is what Ericka was here talking to us about in terms of the palliative care work that is offered through HealWell. And you can do that with more power and with more force, more physical force, depending on how on the adaptive capacity, for your client. So the rules around making clinical decisions for people who have pathology, this is not about, is this indicated or contraindicated? It's more, what are the risks? What are the benefits? How can I maximize the risks and minimize the benefits? Oh,
The way around. Yeah.
reverse that. How can I maximize the benefits and minimize the risk? I will add one more thing, Jodi, and that was just a flood of chatter.
But information.
I will add one more thing, that the risks are sometimes not entirely to the client, right? There are situations where the massage therapist may be at risk, and this would be an example when a client has a contagious condition, for instance, or when a client is asking and maybe a good candidate for deeper massage with more mechanical force than the therapist is capable of giving without running the risk of causing an injury. And it's a great reason to refer out to someone who can do that kind of work. So, when we think about risks and benefits, it's a two-sided thing, right? Mostly we're interested and concerned about risks to our client, but we also have every reason to be taking, good care of the risks to ourselves. Another example of that might be if your client comes in with their own lubricant that they want you to use. And if you happen to be someone who's super, super hypersensitive to things in lubricants and you don't know what's in that ingredient list, that's an inappropriate risk to take, because that's going to take you out of commission, until your skin heals for all of the other clients on your list. So, when we think about risks and benefits, it's mainly about the client, but it's also about the practitioner.
Yeah, I love that summary, because it reaches way beyond just blood clots, but speaks to, this kind of risk reward that we can apply to many different pathologies, right? What are the risks? I love that you gave a real life example too of, can they take a brisk walk for 20 minutes?
Yeah, if your client can exercise, I'll go further than that. If your client is encouraged by their healthcare team, because it's a different question. Do you get exercise that raises your heart rate every day? Compared to, does your healthcare team encourage you to get exercise that raises your heart rate every day? And that's a tiny refinement, because people will say, yeah, it's safe for me to exercise. Doesn't mean that they do exercise. And that's another thing, another piece of information on which we build an informed decision about how we're going to move forward. And yeah, there's more to it than that. There's a whole thing around critical thinking, but when you really boil it down about safety, it's about risks and benefits.
Yeah. So I'm going to move to another question. that I have for you.
I've
And
thrown you
that,
completely off.
no, I love that. I love, this is the rich conversation that I want for our listeners to hear.
Mhm.
And that informs their critical thinking, that informs, the way they interact with their clients. But I'm gonna ask you kind of, an interesting question for me.
Yeah.
What is a common myth that is out there about massage therapy, about working with clients, that is way blown out of proportion? Let me give you an example.
I mean, go ahead.
The first thing that, when I was writing this question, the first thing I thought of was, the word toxins, right?
Oh, God.
Yeah.
Sorry.
So we don't have to go down that trail right now. But what were you thinking of as far as a myth that is, we've long since myth busted that cancer is a general contraindication, right? We got that in school. But what else is out there that's kind of, that you would like to show, like, kind of say, this is really the story here.
Yeah. 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 The toxin one is a great one. And let me just say, I'd like to deal with that just really quickly, if you don't.
Take your
Okay.
time.
We have never found in a pre-post massage test any signs of toxins being released. That's a word that I hate. I hate the word released in the context of massage. In terms of what shows up in the sweat or what shows up in the urine, there's no sign of any particularly significant metabolic change. I would like to replace the word toxin with metabolic waste because anything is toxic if you get too much of it. Oxygen is toxic if you get too much of it. Okay. So, metabolic waste products. Are we actually shifting metabolic waste products? Oh, no. The data on massage and things like delayed muscle onset soreness is very sketchy and inconsistent. So people often report feeling better, but whether we don't know the mechanics of that really to speak to yet. Is it a good idea to drink water after a massage? It's a good idea to drink water anyway, regardless. Is it a good idea to sit for 5 minutes and kind of pull your body back together after massage? Absolutely. So why not have a glass of water, while you're doing that? A myth that came into my mind while you were speaking, Jodi, was the myth of pregnancy in the massage in the first trimester of pregnancy.
Beautiful example.
Yeah, we have this idea that
So dangerous, right?
No, what?
It's so dangerous,
Oh,
right?
so dangerous.
Yeah.
Well, I'll tell you what
You know
is
what?
dangerous.
We're told in school that it's dangerous, right?
Yeah. And
Yeah.
I'll get back to where that comes from in a minute. But I will tell you that nothing has demonstrated that massage around the ankles or heels, or massage around the triplet warmer point at the superior angles of the scapula, because that's another place that is sometimes associated with stimulating contractions. Nothing shows that massage makes the slightest bit of difference in the first trimester. And in fact, many, 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 many people who are pregnant don't know that they're pregnant for the first, it can go 10 or 12 weeks, especially if someone has an irregular cycle, right? I got, and this is an N of one. I was on a table having a lineup of 15 people palpate my psoas the day before I found out I was pregnant with my daughter, right? And so, and she's coming up on 34 now. So somehow things worked out. So however, particularly for people who have struggled with pregnancy and with maintaining a pregnancy, if that doesn't happen, and spontaneous miscarriage is really common and can be devastating and just heartbreaking. If that happens, people will look at why. People will look at, what did I do differently? How did this happen? What contributing factors made this, made me lose my baby. And if massage was among those things that was, sort of out of the ordinary, it's really easy to point a finger and say, that's it. That's what did it. Right. And we live in an extraordinarily litigious society. And so when we assign blame or fault, we look for some kind of retribution or compensation for that. And that's an understandable response, but it is not a useful one. And and in this case of associating massage with a miscarriage is very unlikely to be true. And if we have people here today who are interested in this topic about prenatal massage, and risks associated with prenatal massage, there was recently a really, really nice sort of overall collection of data on this that was published through the International Journal of Therapeutic Massage and Bodywork, which is our profession's academic scientific journal. And that's all free. And if you want to send me a quick note, which you can do through my website, I'll be happy to hook you up with that.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Thank you for that. And so we've busted the myth here that you can't massage in the first trimester.
No, but I understand. I totally get people wanting to hand that off to someone with special training. And particularly for later in a pregnancy, but when the fetus has grown to the point where it's uncomfortable to lay flat on a table, man, it is time to sign that off to someone who has some special training, in my opinion, to avoid, basically out of a sense of due diligence, right? So that positioning and especially this is true, of course, if someone is having a high risk pregnancy. And there's lots and lots and lots of wonderful advanced education on this topic. But the idea that, oh my God, I can't massage someone in their first trimester is probably wildly overstated. But if you're working in a franchise, if you're working in a resort or a hotel or some kind of spa setting, they are unlikely if a client discloses that they are pregnant, they are unlikely to allow that person to receive massage unless they have a massage therapist on staff, with a special certification.
Yeah, that's true. True. We had a few questions that were written in. Miss Tara, could you put that question in the chat? We've had a question on Lyme's disease. Yeah. So we'll get that question going. And then let's see if that question's already in the chat.
I'm not seeing it. I have my chat. Oh, there we go. My client got diagnosed with Lyme disease. Probably had it for a while, didn't know. She's been treated, but she's still showing symptoms, fatigue, sleep, joint pain. How can massage help a client with Lyme disease? All right. First of all, let me clarify that it's Lyme, not Limes.
Okay.
There was no Dr. Lyme. It was named after, no, it was a perfectly reasonable confusion. I mean, it's Bell's palsy because it's named for Dr. Bell, but it's Lyme disease. It was named for a town in Connecticut, Lyme, Connecticut, where it was first identified.
Interesting.
Yeah. Oh, there's a whole story about this, but that's okay. Involving a doctor named Dr. Bergdorfer, which is why the causative agent is a bacterium called Borrelia burgdorferi.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know, it's cool, but it's not cool. It's not cool to have Lyme. So here's the problem with Lyme and delayed Lyme or long Lyme or chronic Lyme disease. A blood test can show that a person has been exposed to this bacterium, but it does not show when, right? And so if I, had the misfortune of contracting Lyme disease 20 years ago and I was still circulating antibodies against it, my blood test would show, yes, I've been exposed to Lyme disease, but it would give me no information about whether that's a new infection or an older one. Lyme disease, like some other kinds of infections, sometimes creates these chronic symptoms that may stay with a person for weeks or months or years or forever. And this is sometimes called chronic Lyme. And it is a bear. It is, I apologize. I'm sorry. I don't have any, there's no magic solution or technique or, craniosacral hold or something that's going to clear up this person's symptoms of chronic Lyme disease. We can see that massage helps with fatigue, and massage helps with sleep quality, and massage helps with joint pain. Whether they will help this person who's dealing with chronic Lyme, it's really more, we're talking more here about palliative care, right? Care of symptoms than trying to clear out this infection. Depending on how impactful these symptoms are, this client might want to pursue it with a medical professional who has some expertise here, and that might not be their general practitioner. So this might be something to pursue with an osteopath or a naturopath or someone who has advanced education, and who may have ideas about treatment approaches that are outside the mainstream.
Mm-hmm.
That said, if she pursues this in mainstream medicine, she might also get great results. What it will probably involve is some hardcore antibiotics for a really long time. And that is extremely stressful to the body. I know people who had chronic Lyme who were sidelined with it. I mean, knocked out, like disabled, who went through this protocol and hated every minute of it, but came out functional and better. Right? So it's a very, very difficult condition. And I'm sorry, I wish I had better news for you. Massage can be helpful to manage symptoms. It's not going to fix the situation. However, one thing that we see with massage, there was one tiny little research project on this years and years ago, but I think the tendency is understandable, is that when people get massage on a regular basis, we also see some other kinds of health changes. And it may have to do with affluence and access, and it may have to do with just realizing that this body is a beloved gift. But people who receive massage on a regular basis tend to take better care of themselves. They drink more water. They're more careful about sleep. They are more careful about getting good exercise and eating, a diet that is supportive to them. And if massage is part of a strategy to take better care of themselves, then we can be part of a success story. It's not always going to happen, and it certainly doesn't happen on a smooth curve. But when we come to making individual decisions about this person's Lyme, about this person and their Lyme disease, what that decision is going to depend on is what they want to have happen, right? What do they think massage is going to do for them? And then we look at risks and benefits. And we look at, there's a little bit of data about massage and Lyme. I wrote an article on chronic Lyme disease for Massage Therapy Journal. Not that one. The other one, Massage and Bodywork magazine, several years ago, and that will not be hard to find. And just see what people have discovered about massage and chronic Lyme disease.
Well,
sorry, that was
Werner, you're just a fountain of knowledge, and I want to encourage our listeners that if you have enjoyed this conversation, if you have found yourself curious and want to ask questions yourself, you can reach out to Ruth through her contact form on her website. You can subscribe to her podcast. I have a client who, that's Ruth Werner, the Massage Therapist Guide to Pathology, and dig a little deeper. So Ruth, I want to say thank you so much for sharing from this wealth of knowledge, and with experience, with compassion, and with expertise. Thanks so much.
Oh, Jodi, anytime. I'd be happy to come and visit, and we can talk about pathology.
I think
Yeah,
our MBLEX review course would be a great place to explore a little bit more about this. So
absolutely, we could.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So we're in the final stage of our business roundtable, bringing you so much value. Oh my goodness. And what we are going to do next is a raffle. We've got some stuff to give away. Yeah. And so Miss Tara has the raffle wheel ready to go. And we have some exciting prizes for you. Our first prize is of a sampler bundle from Rebel Massage. So Rebel Massage makes body butter. You may have seen her with on YouTube. But that is our first gift. So our very first gift, we're going to spin the wheel. These are all, if you are registered and you are here, you are on the wheel. So let's go ahead and do our first spin, Tara. We need music. Woohoo! Maya wins. All right, so Maya wins the first giveaway, which is a sampler pack from Rebel Massage. All right, let's look at our next gift. Our next gift is a 6-month free alumni support membership with a 20-minute one-to-one career check-in with me. That is our next gift, our 6-month free. And hang in there with us because we've got a $100 Amazon gift certificate coming next. Here we go. This is for the 6 months of alumni support free. Chiquila! Yay! Very good. That includes a one-to-one with me, so we'll get that scheduled for you. We'll get that information off to you, Chiquita. And our final raffle item is a $100 Amazon gift card. Yay! Who is it? Lance! Oh, it was almost Latia. All right. Lance, yay! Lance wins the $100 gift card. Oh, thanks so much, Tara, for making that raffle happen. This is so much fun to do that raffle. I want to thank our speakers. Thank you so much, you guys, for being a part of the speakers. So to Joy, to Ruth, thank you very much. To Lynn, to Connie, and to Ericka. Thank you guys so much for sharing, and of course to Tara for sharing your amazing stories, your amazing knowledge, and passing that along to the next generation. I want to let you know that this business alumni support business roundtable is happens quarterly. Our next date, you can jot it down, is Monday, September 29th. That's a Monday, September 29th from 12 to 2. Wanted to also mention that if you are just hearing about Rebel Massage's body butter all month long in the month of July, you can buy things from Rebel with 15% off. Yes, so 15% off. Just use the code Jodi15. Jodi15. Yes, that's for body butter. If you'd like to do some continuing ed, those links are in the chat. And when we send you the link to the replay, we'll also put those links in your email so that you can go find some amazing continuing education. That is our session for today. Thank you so much for attending, for participating in our Alumni Support Business Roundtable. We are bringing excellent information to you to inform the pathway of your career. So thanks so much for being here. We'll see you again either in the MBLEX review class, in our business mentoring group, or right back here in a few months for the business roundtable. Have a fantastic rest of your day.